Amy Sommers and told her the name of the man who allegedly killed her husband.
Wow.
Amy had alerted the Fond du Lac police in advance of this meeting, and they secretly recorded the man telling her the killer's name. The police later confronted the man, and he told them the same story that he had told Amy Sommers, so he did not deny. When the police asked him, he repeated himself.
Mm-hmm.
Based on this, the district attorney said that the case would be reopened.
I'm just curious where this is going.
Yeah. Neither the name of the ex-convict or the alleged killer was made public. I don't know who they are. I'm sure it's in a record somewhere, but it's not a record I've seen, so I do not know. This is October 1962 that this meeting happens. Then there's an election, and there's a new governor elected. His name's John Reynolds.
Okay.
And John Reynolds comes into office in January 1963. And Governor Reynolds decides that one of his very first speeches, he's going to talk about the dangers of organized crime and how the state should do a better job of fighting it.
Okay.
Which, you know, good for him. But here's where this goes wrong. He says, based on what he's been informed, in like the week or two he's been in office, there are 3 cities in the state plagued by organized crime. Milwaukee, which was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
He also named Kenosha, because at the time that this happened, this was just after the Tony Burnett kidnapping and murder. So this was fresh in everyone's mind.
And that is Shallow Grave?
That's the Shallow Grave book. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So this is like that same month. So, of course, that's going to come up. Makes sense.
And then Madison, I'm assuming?
No.
Fond du Lac.
Fond du Lac. Fond du Lac. He goes, there's also organized crime in Fond du Lac. And he goes, let me tell you, there's a company there called the Grande Cheese Company. And they're built on a history of murder. They have connections to the Mafia in Chicago and New York. Following his speech, Grande's president at the time, John DeBella, left Fond du Lac for a while to avoid press inquiries. He did not want to deal with that.
And John DeBella, when in the last episode that we did on Grande Cheese, he was the one that took it over and had maybe loose Mafia ties. Like
he has Mafia ties, but yeah, he's after all the violence, then he's kind of made the president. And yeah, he's like good friends with some New York mobsters and things like that. Connecting him to any specific crime is really hard to do. So what I find interesting here is my belief, and I don't know this for a fact. I don't know where the governor was pulling this from, but it's my belief that Governor Reynolds included Fond du Lac in his list because of how outspoken Amy Sommers had been. Because every chance she gets, she's going and telling the news and everyone else, being like, this was a murder. Yeah. This was not a suicide. Now, the governor did not mention that in his speech. He mentioned the Grande Cheese murders of the past. But the reason I find this weird is he's making this speech in 1963. Those murders happened in the 1940s. So it's really weird that he's going to be like, this company was committing murders 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to bring that up unless he thinks there's a current problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only reason he thinks there's a current problem is if he's somehow convinced that this is another one of those murders. That Leroy Sommers owns an Italian cheese company. He's maybe making payoffs. His wife says he was murdered. And so, of course, the other Fond du Lac cheese company is somehow connected. He never explicitly says it. That's what I think he's getting at.
So is this the connection between the Milwaukee Mafia? Or I guess it wouldn't even be a connection to the Milwaukee Mafia, just organized crime in general. Is this where we get that connection, is just because this governor believes that that's what it is?
This is the whole thing. This is the whole thing. Like, when you do like the Mafia research and Grande Cheese comes up, and I was sorry, Grande Cheese, like they're totally legit company now. They're great. They're wonderful. But like when this comes up, this will show up every time they're mentioned in the newspapers. This, by the way, they were suspected in this thing, and like the FBI, who did not even investigate the Leroy Sommers case, like the FBI would be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, they were suspected in this Leroy Sommers death." Just from Amy Sommers going out and keep insisting on this with nobody backing her up, it keeps getting picked up by the newspaper, the governor, and so forth.
And there's really no shred of evidence whatsoever that Grande Cheese had anything to do with it.
Not at all.
Not
at all. But it comes up in the FBI records, the newspaper reports, and stuff like that. So yeah, because you asked, at this point, I will be very clear. I don't believe there is 1% of a connection between Leroy Sommers and the Mafia. I don't believe that. Because it was rumored at the time, for months on end, it was rumored. It's worth bringing up and addressing, if for no other reason than to say, no, this is not a thing. Mm-hmm. Because I think longtime listeners will have picked up on this by now. But a good part of organized crime research isn't just finding the connections and the hidden facts and things like that. That's the fun part. That's like when you go and you tell people like, ooh, look what I found, this hidden owner in this business. Like that's the part people are excited about. The other big part of it is like finding that all the rumors going around
were just ridiculous.
Are crap. Like some of them are true. Sometimes they pan out. Rumors have a way of lodging into the public mind. And it's important to kind of step forward and be like, yeah, what is this based on? And and when you really drill down into this, not much. Because, they went, like I said, this is why I said, like, in the very intro, the law enforcement stuff. Like, law enforcement, and we didn't even really get to the law enforcement part yet. But even, like, the doctors here, like, they're doing their due diligence. Every time she says, please check more, they check more.
And
at some point, they should just be like, "It's not a thing," but they're like, "Okay,
It's interesting, but okay. So now and maybe I missed this. Did there was talk in there about payoffs?
Mm-hmm.
What was found with the payoffs? Was there any
nothing?
Not even that he was making payoffs, because I thought they found payments or something. He said no. Okay,
no, she had heard rumors of payoffs. She said who she heard it from. That guy then testified that he had heard rumors of payoffs. And then he said who he heard it from. And then the third guy comes and he's like, I never said anything about payoffs. The only thing that anybody had on the record there is that occasionally the one businessman would loan him money. Which that's not evidence of a payoff
at all.
Yeah.
You would have to follow that money trail.
Right.
Interesting.
A business owner could need a loan for any number of reasons. That's pretty weak evidence.
So I'm assuming that your position on this is that it was clearly suicide.
I don't know if I want to give it away, but yes.
It seems like that's what this is.
Right.
Okay. So, but there's more to it yet?
There's a little bit more.
Okay, let's finish the story up before we launch into any discussion.
Okay. So now the suicide. The suicide has happened over 6 months ago, but it's still making the rounds. A report was submitted to the Chicago Narcotics Bureau that cheese from the Full Cream Cheese Company had been sent out to California for the purpose of that cheese company in California to put narcotics packaged inside of it and then resent back out to customers who were buying narcotics disguised as cheese.
Okay.
And when I say narcotics, generally that means heroin.
Okay.
So the Chicago Narcotics Bureau looks into this. They pass it on to the federal authorities, which at this time was the Federal Narcotics Bureau. They also investigated. Neither Chicago or the feds were able to find any evidence to support this claim whatsoever.
What is going on with this? Like, just these false rumors that are flying around like crazy with this, surrounding this guy and his company. That's just weird, right?
Yeah, it's really weird. The Fond du Lac District Attorney and the newly elected state attorney general would get questions from the press. They said,